welcome back to another episode of the Let's Go Lay Down podcast. And that is indeed what we all want to do at this time in this crazy ass world. It is to go lay down. So, with that said, I want to kick off today's episode. And there's so much to update on, and I have been wondering a bit before we jump into today's episode. I have been wondering if it would be of interest to people, you sweet people tuning into the podcast, that I share a bit more behind the scenes of the months that's gone by and just a bit more what I'm up to, both in terms of travels, business, self-reflection, the big questions in life, and just what is going on. I actually felt called to do a month recap on the podcast specifically, and I also just kicked off my newsletter, by the way, which is called The Permission Slip. So you can find that if you, I'll put the link to it in the description below or in the show notes. But curious if this is something that would be of interest to you, to get a bit more behind the scenes, a more intimate look into what's going on, because I would love to share my experience if that is of value and it creates some kind of permission slip for you to live your life to the fullest. So please let me know, and I would love to hear from you. And you can reach out on podcast at houseofgee.com, and that's podcast at houseofgee, that's a double E.com. Anywho, as I've mentioned in some of the other episodes, I really want this to feel like I am your bestie sitting in the car next to you and we're just having a chat. I want this to feel like it's like an intimate space. It's a sense of community. It's a sense of, when we have that feeling of finding our people, finding our tribe, finding the people that see us, that understands us, and that without them even knowing, they make us feel so seen and understood and not alone in the world, that we can bear, a little more of this crazy ass human experience. So that is always the intention, and coming back to, being strapped in the seat next to you when you're out driving, or being squatting next to you in the gym, just like hanging out and having casual conversations. And that's the vibe that I'm going for. So with that said, today's episode is about choosing play over performance. And this is the foundational message that I am starting to live according to. And I have so much to share on the topic of play over performance and how it has really shaped the last 10 years of my life and career, and has really made me end up in the place that I'm in today, which is having recently announced that I started a creative studio, and I am seeing this creative studio as a super conscious playground. I am seeing this studio, it's called House of G, by the way, House of Your Inner Genius. And I believe that a genius is something that we channel. It is something that comes to us, that we are the conductor, we are the vehicle through which inspiration and creativity can flow. So it's not a genius that I hold. It's not my genius. It is available to us all, but we need to make ourselves available for that genius to flow through us. So House of G is House of the Inner Genius, and it's about allowing that super conscious expression to come through, no matter which discipline and art form that it takes. And with House of G, what we're up to is to more tangibly, we focus on creating very dope brand identities for personal brands. So if you're a creator, if you are a high-level executive wanting to pivot into another chapter of your career where you want to write books or you want to be a keynote speaker, then a personal brand is for you. And we assist people in different levels. So could, for example, be focusing on visual identity only. and focusing on, everything from logo to typography and colors and all that good stuff that you see that's visual. Or we can focus on the end-to-end brand identity, which is also the founding story and the communication strategy and like what do you want to be known for in the world kind of type of thing. So that's what we're up to more specifically in House of G. And really wanting to approach it with as a state of play and not performance. And when I say choosing play over performance, it's coming from this deep-seated place that we are performing in so many areas of our lives. And I'm getting ahead of myself because I want to get into this in the episode. And but before we do that, just rounding this off with saying that it is time to play. It is time to stop proving ourselves to anyone. It is time to know that we are enough. It is time to let go of the last fuck you have in your body about what anyone else thinks. Your parents, your friends, your partner, it doesn't matter. Like, you need to be doing what lights you up, what sets your soul on fire, and contribute overall. I'm not saying like quit your job and go do something crazy, right? Like, that's not what I'm saying. Of course, we have to also use our left brain once in a while and plan things out and be practical, even though that's so boring, but we have to. But what I'm saying is that I think we really are entering an era, and we're entering a time where the play will take precedent and the performance will take a backseat. And when I say performance, it is as parents, it is as friends, it is with how we dress, how we look, it is on the job, it is in our careers, it is on social media. Everything has become a performance. So we're basically in just one big circus. And I am just over it, to be honest. So with all of that said, I want to dive into this episode. And I want to kick it off with asking you a question. What if everything we've been taught about success is wrong? What if performance without play is just a well-disguised prison? Let me repeat it. What if everything we've been taught about success is wrong? And what if performance without play is just a well-disguised prison? I've been sitting with these questions for quite a while now, and recently the answer showed up in the most unexpected place. A ceramics painting class with my little nephew and my sister. And my nephew was turning 4, and he was going through what I would call an unquestionable obsession with painting. He was especially into painting rocks with glitter. So, as I'm obviously the cool aunt type, I thought that a ceramics painting experience in one of those creative cafes would be the absolute perfect gift for this little guy. So, as we sat there with our brushes, surrounded by colors and blank ceramics ready to paint, my nephew threw himself into this activity. And quite frankly, I don't think he had any plan, as this 4-year-old rarely does, except for paint on as many things as mommy will allow until she stopped me. And you could tell that he was just painting with absolute joy. And he was so proud of each of those colors that was added to the eventual and inevitable, might I add, the poo brown color that all kids are the masters of making, right? So no doubt he was creating another masterpiece of similar quality to the kindergarten artworks on the fridge that we all know so well. Anywho, as soon as I turned my attention to my own little ceramics bowl, something very strange happened. I caught myself performing. Yes, you heard that right. I was performing in a ceramics cafe on a chill Saturday morning with absolutely zero expectations on me other than to have fun with a 4-year-old and his mother. And instead of just being present and enjoying the absolute no stakes moment of a recreational activities with people I love, I was thinking, how can I make this bowl look more beautiful? Which design will impress my sister? Will people admire it when they see it in my home? As if I was some like freaking ceramics professional supposed to make a bowl when this was the first time in my life I had ever put a brush on a piece of ceramics. Like, it makes no sense. And in this moment, it hit me like a ton of bricks. How often in life am I doing this? How often am I performing when I could just be playing? And why does there need to be a productive outcome or a purpose or external validation, for that matter, for me to find an activity worthy or useful? This 4-year-old, my nephew, with paint on his face, and the rest of the folks in that little cafe on this majestic Saturday morning somewhere in the outskirts of Denmark could not give less of an F about whether I made a masterpiece to the likes of Michelangelo or if I could win the prize for the most repulsive design in the history of ceramics painting. That quite literally could be no lower stakes game, and yet I felt the pressure to perform. Like, compulsively almost. Like, when I sat there, it almost felt sickening. And then I started thinking, why do we do this to ourselves? And this kind of began to unravel so many moments in my life where performance had not just taken over, but kind of was the only thing that I knew. I wasn't even sure I knew how to play in so many areas of my life, and my career was, of course, no exception. And for over a decade, I've thrown myself off some of the biggest cliffs that I could find. I have been building businesses, leading teams, raising capital, trying to solve what I'm now looking at as almost impossible problems in impossible industries, navigating environments in private equity and the tech startup world. And while the drive inside of me to pursue these missions felt very real, I realized that something else was quietly present. And it was that I was constantly performing. I was on stage, metaphorically, in meetings, when I was talking to investors, and most of all, I was on stage to perform for myself. So, okay, get this. I was basically putting pressure on myself to convince me that I was good enough. Do you get that? Let me repeat it. I was putting pressure on myself to convince myself that I, again, myself, was good enough. Like, how ridiculous is that? Actually, why do we torture ourselves in this way? It is so unnecessary. And it took me some time to realize that nothing external could ever satisfy this feeling. No amount of achievements, no amount of applause. It is and always will be something that we have to find inside of ourselves that will satisfy that feeling of being enough, of being good enough, of having done enough. And give ourselves the grace of a break and of just allowing ourselves to play with no goddamn reason, no purpose, no at all, none at all. Just make the most unuseful thing you can think of, and it would be okay. That has been very, very difficult for me through my life. And the more I reflect, the more I realize how pervasive this need to perform really is, and it's everywhere. It's in business, it's in our relationships, it's on social media. For God's sake, it's on social media. It's in how we parent, how we look. Everything becomes a performance, and it's become a way to measure how much self-worth we will allow ourselves to feel today by stacking up against others. And I feel in my soul that this is not just exhausting, it is deeply, deeply unsustainable. Because at its core, I believe that this is about validation. And we've been sold the idea that if we perform well enough for long enough, that we'll finally get that recognition or that applause or that pat on the back that says, you made it, you're good enough. But what we're really after is the pat on the back from ourselves, genuinely telling us that we're good enough, regardless of our external circumstances or what we did or what we quote unquote accomplished. And the irony is that in striving for this perfection that is impossible to reach, we lose sight of the magic that comes from being imperfect, messy, and real. You know, the wholesome and human people. Like, I miss that so much. We forget the freedom that so many of us are seeking actually is found in the playing and in the creating and in the being. But right now, so many of us, unfortunately, we trade our authenticity for applause, and it leaves us kind of creatively and sometimes emotionally bankrupt. And that day at the Ceramics Cafe, I asked myself a simple question, which made the whole house of cards fall. And the question was, am I playing or am I performing right now? And that one question have fundamentally changed how I show up for everything in my life. And it's a question that I've since started asking myself in everything I do. Whether I'm in a business meeting, if I'm working on a creative project, or even when I'm on the yoga mat, or if I'm just casually catching up with a friend. It is a really, really powerful litmus test. And every time I ask, I become even more aware of where I am coming from with what I'm doing. What is the underlying subconscious intention? And is it pure? Is it really pure? Or is it part of me, like the part of me that is seeking validation? When I am performing, I feel tense. I feel focused on the outcome. I relapse into my perfectionism. I am being very, very hard and tough on myself. But when I'm playing, I feel light. I feel bouncy. I feel bubbly. I'm immersed in the process, in the flow, enjoying the act of creation, and not focused on how it will be perceived or what the received, how it will be received, and what purpose it will fulfill. And in a way, choosing play is about letting inspiration and curiosity and wonder lead the way without judgment and without conditions tied to it. We need to allow the creative expression to come through and give ourselves space to be the conductor of it, like I said in the beginning. What is really, really important in this episode that I want you to take away, if you take away anything, is that play is not the absence of effort. It's the absence of fear and judgment. Let me repeat that. Play is not the absence of effort. It's the absence of fear and judgment. Think about that. And it's something that we allow ourselves when we feel safe enough to explore and to experiment and to take risks. At its core, play is about stepping into the arena without any guarantees whatsoever. When we play, we risk failing, and we risk failing hard. We risk looking foolish. And it's exactly where our greatest potential is waiting. It's when we step into that arena. And we pick up the sword and we dare go out there and fight for whatever we believe in, or create whatever we believe in or we want to express, without the fear and without the judgment. And in a world headed for what some have called the age of average, I think this is the ultimate rebellion, honestly. To be bold enough to play, to innovate, and to stand apart in a sea of sameness, as I call it, and online carbon copies. Play demands that we stop trying to fit in. And there is a fundamental difference between fitting in and belonging. Because I think everyone wants to belong, but fitting in requires that we conform. It requires conformity, and I'm not okay with that. Belonging, though, on the other hand, requires authenticity and connection, because if we don't express ourselves fully as who we are, we won't be able to find the people that vibe on that same frequency. And that's just the fact. Like, it's the core of it. There's no more. It's so simple. So there's not even any reason. We're just cheating ourselves when we are not fully expressing who we are to our core. And as the famous Roosevelt quote loosely goes, it's not the critic who counts, but the man in the arena daring greatly regardless of the outcome. I love that quote, and I love the full quote. I can definitely recommend you check it up on YouTube. It is something that is very, very dear to my heart. And basically, this is the philosophy that House of G was born out of. And House of G wasn't founded to solve any particular problem. It wasn't founded to address a market potential in some arbitrary TAM, like total addressable market, like you often see in the startup industry, or to satisfy any investors. There's no particular business reason, if you will, for existing, other than the exclusively selfish reason that I want it to exist. And House of G was created to be a container for play and for creation and for expression. And that is it. There's no bigger mission. There's no grand purpose to save the world. It's a space that exists solely to hold the creative energy of those who are inside of it, who inhabit it. And that would be me. It would be the team and anyone that's kind, cool, or relaxed enough to be invited inside. And yes, it is a creative studio. Yes, we create really, really dope brands. And yes, we help really cool people find and express their inner genius to share it with the world. But the services that we offer and the clients that we work with, they come from a place of deep and soulful alignment with what lights us up and the messages that we believe in. And that gives us the luxury to say no enough times to get to the hell yeah when we meet our people. And I think that we're entering a time for calm businesses, run sustainably and joyfully by well-regulated, and here I'm talking about the nervous system, and relaxed, yes please, humans. And what I really hope for is that House of G becomes one of those. So as we're rounding off this episode, I'll leave you with the invitation to ask yourself, am I playing or performing right now? Because there is a world of difference between the two, and sometimes just asking the question is enough to change everything. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. I so appreciate you. I would love to hear from you if you have any feedback, if you have something that you would love for me to go over. If you liked this episode or the podcast, please hit follow and give it a review on the platform that you're listening. It will help us. It helps me so much to get this podcast out to the people that it is for. And I also just want to round off by saying that we are currently looking for freelance designers, graphic designers, and copywriters. And we're looking for people that wants to play with us, that feels pulled and very inspired and like that hell yes feeling to come and play with us and help us serve in a bigger way. So if that is you, please reach out on hello@houseofgee.com, and that is hello@houseofgee.com. Thank you so much, and catch you in the next one.